The cool breeze of a crisp autumn evening swept through the streets of downtown Minneapolis as Greg Harrison adjusted his MAGA hat and stepped through the revolving doors of the Grand Regency Hotel. The hat, an emblem of his political beliefs, had often been a conversation starter, and sometimes a source of contention. Tonight, it was just another accessory for the man who had recently made a life-changing decision, purchasing the very hotel he was entering. Unbeknownst to anyone in the establishment, Greg wasn't just another guest. He was now their employer. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. Greg's journey to becoming the owner of the Grand Regency was a tale of persistence and ambition. Once a small-town entrepreneur, he had built his wealth through a series of successful investments in real estate and hospitality. A chance opportunity to acquire this historic property had piqued his interest, and after weeks of negotiations, the deal had finally closed. Greg, preferring to keep a low profile, decided to visit the hotel incognito before announcing his ownership. Wearing his signature red hat, he wanted to experience the service as any ordinary guest would. The lobby of the Grand Regency was a picture of opulence, gleaming marble floors, sparkling chandeliers, and a roaring fireplace that lent warmth to the autumn chill. The staff bustled about attending to the evening's guests, but Greg's entrance caused an immediate ripple. Heads turned, eyes narrowed, and hushed whispers filled the space. The bright red "Make America Great Again" cap perched on Greg's head and clearly struck a nerve. As Greg approached the front desk, the clerk on duty, a young man named Ethan, visibly stiffened. "Good evening, sir," Ethan said, his tone polite but strained. "How may I assist you?" "I'd like to check in," Greg replied, handing over his ID and reservation details. He noticed Ethan's eyes dart briefly to his hat before returning to the computer screen. Ethan tapped at the keyboard, his jaw tightening. After a pause, he said, "It seems we have a problem with your reservation. Let me get my manager." Greg raised an eyebrow but said nothing, stepping aside to allow another guest to be served. A few minutes later, a sharply dressed woman appeared, her name tag identifying her as Amanda, the hotel manager. Her expression was composed, but there was a flicker of disapproval in her eyes as she glanced at Greg's hat. "Mr. Harrison, is it?" Amanda asked, her voice smooth but tinged with a subtle edge. "That's right," Greg confirmed, extending his hand. Amanda hesitated for a fraction of a second before shaking it. "I'm afraid there's been an issue with your booking," she said. "Unfortunately, we won't be able to accommodate you this evening." Greg's eyes narrowed. "And why is that? I booked weeks ago and my credit card was charged." Amanda's smile was thin and professional. "We reserve the right to decline service to anyone. I'm sorry for the inconvenience." The atmosphere in the lobby grew tense. Other guests pretended not to notice, but their sideways glances betrayed their curiosity. Greg stood his ground, his calm demeanor masking the irritation bubbling beneath the surface. "So, let me get this straight," Greg said evenly. "You're kicking me out because of my hat?" Amanda's smile faltered. "Sir, this isn't about your hat." Greg chuckled, a low, humorless sound. "I think we both know it is, but don't worry, I won't make a scene." Turning on his heel, Greg strode out of the hotel, leaving a trail of stunned silence in his wake. He walked a few blocks to a nearby coffee shop, ordered a strong black coffee, and settled into a corner booth. Pulling out his phone, he began composing an email to his legal team. While he had no intention of publicly embarrassing the staff, he knew he needed to address the situation swiftly and decisively. The hotel's culture clearly needed a serious overhaul. The next morning, the Grand Regency buzzed with activity as staff prepared for a scheduled meeting with the new owner. None of them had any idea who he was or what he looked like. The purchase had been handled through intermediaries. Amanda, confident in her leadership, was determined to make a good impression. She had no inkling that the man she had dismissed the night before was about to change the trajectory of her career. As for Greg, he continued to wear his MAGA hat proudly, though only outside the hotel. Inside, he was simply the man who had turned a moment of conflict into an opportunity for growth, and in the end, that was what made the Grand Regency truly great. The transformation of the Grand Regency was not merely a matter of policy changes or staff training, it was a cultural reset, a reckoning with the values that had quietly shaped the institution for years. Greg Harrison, with his unyielding resolve, became the centerpiece of this seismic shift, and his influence extended far beyond the gilded walls of the hotel. His journey from an anonymous guest to an involved owner reshaped the lives of everyone connected to the establishment. In the weeks following the fateful meeting, Greg made it a priority to engage personally with every employee. He didn't believe in being an absentee owner. He wanted to understand the unique challenges faced by his team and the guests they served. This philosophy led him to initiate what he called Frontline Fridays, a weekly practice where he shadowed staff members in various roles. From bellhops to housekeepers to chefs, Greg immersed himself in the daily grind of the hotel's operations. One of his most eye-opening experiences came when he worked alongside Carla, a veteran housekeeper with over 20 years at the Grand Regency. Carla had seen the hotel through its golden years and its lean ones, and her pride in her work was evident in the meticulous way she fluffed pillows and folded towels. "Mr. Harrison, I'll be honest," Carla said as they worked together to clean a suite. "When I heard you were the new owner, I was nervous. We've had owners before who only cared about profit. They didn't care about us." Greg paused, a fresh set of linens in his hands. "Carla, if there's one thing I've learned in business, it's that people are the heart of any organization. Without you and the rest of the team, this place wouldn't be what it is. My job is to make sure you have the tools and support to succeed." Carla smiled, a rare softness in her expression. "It's nice to hear that. I just hope you mean it." Greg did mean it, and he set about proving it. He implemented an open-door policy, inviting employees to share their concerns and ideas directly with him. He also introduced profit-sharing bonuses, ensuring that when the hotel succeeded, everyone reaped the rewards. The gesture was met with cautious optimism at first, but as the months rolled on and bonuses began to roll out, the staff's skepticism gave way to gratitude. Meanwhile, Greg faced external challenges as well. News of the initial incident at the hotel had spread beyond the confines of the staff, making its way into the local media. An anonymous tip had leaked the story of a man being turned away for wearing a MAGA hat, sparking a flurry of online debates. Some criticized the hotel for perceived bias, while others defended the staff's actions as a stand against divisiveness. The story had all the ingredients for viral controversy, and soon national outlets picked it up. Greg decided to confront the narrative head-on. He granted an exclusive interview to a prominent news outlet, sitting down with a seasoned journalist in the hotel's grand ballroom. As cameras rolled, Greg spoke candidly about the incident and the lessons it had taught him. "I understand why people have strong reactions to symbols like the MAGA hat," he said. "But what we have to remember is that hospitality is about setting aside our differences and finding common ground. That's what I want the Grand Regency to stand for." The interview aired to widespread acclaim. While some critics remained unconvinced, many viewers praised Greg's balanced approach and his commitment to fostering inclusivity. The publicity brought an unexpected boost to the hotel's bookings, as travelers from across the country sought to experience the renewed energy of the Grand Regency. Among the influx of guests was a retired schoolteacher named Mary Ann, who arrived with her husband to celebrate their 50th wedding anniversary. Mary Ann, a lifelong Democrat, admitted to Greg during a chance encounter in the lobby that she had been apprehensive about staying at a hotel owned by someone with such openly conservative views. "But you've changed my perspective," Mary Ann said, her voice filled with emotion. "The way you've handled this whole situation, it shows me that people can disagree and still treat each other with respect." The encounter left a lasting impression on Greg. It reaffirmed his belief that the Grand Regency could be more than just a place to stay. It could be a beacon of unity in an increasingly divided world. To that end, he began organizing community events that brought together people of all backgrounds. The hotel hosted charity galas, cultural festivals, and panel discussions on topics ranging from art to social justice. Each event was carefully designed to create dialogue and foster understanding. One particularly memorable evening featured a panel on free speech and its role in modern society. The lineup included scholars, activists, and even a few high-profile celebrities. The event drew a packed audience, and the discussion was spirited but respectful. At the end of the night, Greg took the stage to deliver closing remarks. "This isn't about who's right or wrong," he said. "It's about listening to each other, even when it's hard. That's the only way we move forward." The applause that followed was deafening, and Greg couldn't help but feel a swell of pride. The Grand Regency was becoming a place where meaningful connections happened, a far cry from the hostility he had encountered on his first night. Behind the scenes, however, not everything was smooth sailing. The changes Greg implemented were not universally welcomed. Some employees bristled at the new policies, viewing them as unnecessary disruptions. A small but vocal group even questioned Greg's motives, suspecting that his efforts were more about image management than genuine reform. Among the dissenters was a bartender named Jake, whose frustrations boiled over one evening during a staff meeting. "With all due respect, Mr. Harrison," Jake said, his tone clipped, "not everyone wants to work at some utopian experiment. Some of us just want to do our jobs and go home." Greg met Jake's gaze, unflinching. "I hear you, Jake, and I'm not asking anyone to change who they are. All I'm asking is that we treat our guests and each other with dignity. That's not a utopia, that's basic decency." Jake shrugged, clearly unconvinced, but over time even he couldn't deny the positive changes taking root at the hotel. The staff was more cohesive, the guests were happier, and profits were steadily climbing. Resistance gave way to grudging acceptance, and eventually, Jake became one of Greg's most reliable allies. The story of the Grand Regency's transformation reached far beyond Minneapolis. Other hoteliers began reaching out to Greg, seeking advice on how to navigate similar challenges in their own establishments. Greg, never one to hoard knowledge, shared his strategies freely, viewing it as an opportunity to elevate the entire industry. Meanwhile, Amanda, the manager who had initially clashed with Greg, underwent her own journey of self-reflection. Determined to grow from her mistakes, she enrolled in leadership training and sought mentorship from seasoned professionals. Over time, she became one of Greg's most trusted advisors, earning his respect through her resilience and dedication. "People deserve second chances," Greg told her during one of their weekly check-ins. "You've proven that." As the months turned into years, the Grand Regency flourished under Greg's leadership. The hotel became a symbol of hope and redemption, its story inspiring countless others to reevaluate their own biases and assumptions. Greg's MAGA hat, once a lightning rod for controversy, now hung framed in his office, a reminder of the journey that had brought him and the hotel to this point. Yet for all the accolades and successes, Greg remained humble. He continued to walk the halls of the Grand Regency, chatting with guests and employees alike. To him, the true measure of success wasn't in the awards or the profits. It was in the smiles of the people who called the hotel their home, even if only for a night. And so, the Grand Regency stood as a testament to the power of humility, perseverance, and the belief that even the most unexpected encounters can lead to extraordinary change. For Greg Harrison, the hotel wasn't just an investment or a business, it was a legacy, one built on the simple yet profound idea that greatness lies not in our differences, but in our shared humanity. The momentum at the Grand Regency continued to build, evolving into a dynamic chapter not only in Greg Harrison's life, but in the lives of everyone the hotel touched. Greg's vision had shifted from merely steering a business toward profitability to creating a legacy that defined what modern hospitality could and should be. Yet, there were still challenges and opportunities ahead, testing his mettle as a leader and his ability to inspire those around him. One of Greg's first major projects in the next phase of the Grand Regency's transformation was to renovate and modernize its facilities. While the historic charm of the hotel was one of its most appealing features, some areas had fallen into disrepair, and others felt dated compared to newer competitors. But Greg didn't want to bulldoze the past in favor of a generic contemporary aesthetic. Instead, he set out to blend the old with the new, preserving the essence of the hotel's storied history, while incorporating cutting-edge amenities that would appeal to modern travelers. To achieve this balance, Greg hired an award-winning architectural firm renowned for its sensitivity to heritage properties. Over several months, the team worked closely with Greg and his staff, soliciting input on everything from the design of the guest rooms to the layout of the common areas. Even Carla, the veteran housekeeper, found herself part of the process. "You've been here longer than anyone," Greg told her during a design meeting. "What do you think would make the guests feel most at home?" Carla hesitated, unused to being asked for her opinion on such matters. But eventually she spoke up. "I think we need more natural light in the dining areas. Guests love sitting by the windows, but the drapes block everything out." Her suggestion was not only taken seriously but implemented into the final design, with large, elegant bay windows replacing the heavy curtains. The results were stunning. and the once dim dining room became one of the hotel's most beloved spaces, often bustling with guests enjoying brunch or evening cocktails as sunlight spilled in. The renovations extended to the guest rooms, which were updated with plush bedding, state-of-the-art entertainment systems, and eco-friendly features like water-saving fixtures and solar-powered lighting. Greg also commissioned local artists to create custom artwork for each room, ensuring that every piece reflected the culture and history of Minneapolis. These personal touches added character and set the Grand Regency apart from other luxury hotels. While construction crews worked to modernize the physical space, Greg focused on modernizing the hotel's digital presence as well. He enlisted a team of marketing experts to revamp the Grand Regency's website and social media platforms, making them more engaging and user-friendly. The new website featured virtual tours of the property, detailed profiles of the staff, and a blog that highlighted local attractions and events. Social media campaigns showcased the hotel's transformation, using before and after photos, behind-the-scenes videos, and guest testimonials to tell its story. One campaign in particular captured widespread attention. Titled "A Room for Every Story," it invited guests to share their most memorable experiences at the Grand Regency. From honeymooners who had danced under the ballroom's crystal chandeliers to a family reunited after years apart, the submissions poured in, painting a vivid picture of the hotel's impact on its visitors. The campaign went viral, earning accolades from the hospitality industry and bringing a wave of new bookings. Among the guests drawn by the campaign was a young couple, Liz and Andrew, who had recently become engaged. They chose the Grand Regency as the venue for their wedding, enchanted by its charm and reputation. Their ceremony, held in the newly renovated garden courtyard, was a magical affair, with twinkling lights strung between the trees and the soft hum of a string quartet filling the air. Greg, who had been personally invited to attend, watched from the sidelines with a quiet smile, proud that his hotel could play a part in such a special moment. But the Grand Regency wasn't just a place for celebration. It also became a refuge for those in need. Recognizing the hotel's resources and the growing homelessness crisis in Minneapolis, Greg partnered with local charities to provide temporary shelter for families during the harsh winter months. Rooms that might have otherwise gone unoccupied were offered to those in dire circumstances, complete with meals and access to social services. The initiative, called Warm Welcome, was a bold move that drew both praise and criticism. Some questioned whether such efforts would harm the hotel's upscale image, but Greg was unwavering in his decision. "Being successful means more than just turning a profit," he said during a press conference. "It means using our success to make a difference." The initiative proved to be a resounding success, with many of the families eventually finding permanent housing and employment. Several even returned to the Grand Regency as paying guests, their lives transformed by the generosity they had once received. As the hotel thrived, so did its reputation as a hub for cultural exchange and dialogue. Greg's community events grew larger and more ambitious, attracting speakers, performers, and thought leaders from around the globe. One particularly memorable event was a week-long literary festival that featured readings, workshops, and panel discussions with renowned authors. The festival drew bibliophiles from far and wide, filling the hotel's rooms and bringing a surge of energy to its halls. During the festival's closing gala, Greg took the opportunity to address the attendees. "This hotel was built on stories of the people who've stayed here, worked here, and passed through its doors, and I believe those stories are what make it special. They remind us of our shared humanity." The audience erupted into applause, and Greg felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The Grand Regency was no longer just a hotel. It was a living, breathing entity that brought people together in meaningful ways. Yet even as the Grand Regency reached new heights, Greg faced personal challenges. The demands of running the hotel and maintaining its rapid growth left little time for his personal life. Friends often remarked on how rarely they saw him outside of work, and his family worried that he was burning the candle at both ends. One evening, during a rare dinner with his sister Emily, she voiced her concerns. "Greg, you've done amazing things with the hotel, but you can't pour from an empty cup. You need to take care of yourself too." Greg sighed, knowing she was right. "It's hard to step away when there's so much to do, but you're right. I need to find balance." Taking her advice to heart, Greg began delegating more responsibilities to his senior staff, trusting them to carry forward his vision. He also made time for the hobbies he had long neglected, such as hiking and photography. These moments of respite recharged him, allowing him to approach his work with renewed energy and creativity. In the years that followed, the Grand Regency continued to thrive, earning accolades and setting new standards for the hospitality industry. Yet its greatest achievement was not in its profits or awards, but in the lives it touched. From guests to staff to the broader community, the hotel became a symbol of resilience, empathy, and the belief that even small acts of kindness could create ripples of change. For Greg, the journey was far from over. But as he stood in the lobby one quiet evening, watching as guests laughed, chatted, and made memories, he felt a deep sense of contentment. The Grand Regency was everything he had dreamed it could be, and more. It was a testament to the power of perseverance, the beauty of diversity, and the enduring magic of a place where everyone, no matter who they were or where they came from, could feel at home. As the glow of the Grand Regency's success continued to brighten, Greg Harrison's aspirations began to stretch even further. While his original intent had been to restore the hotel's legacy and secure its place as a leading establishment, he now saw potential for the Grand Regency to become a movement. The lessons learned and values cultivated within the walls of the hotel could inspire a broader shift in the hospitality industry, one that prioritized connection, compassion, and excellence without compromise. One of Greg's most ambitious ideas was to create a training academy within the hotel itself. He envisioned it as a place where aspiring hoteliers, from front desk agents to general managers, could learn the intricacies of the trade in a real-world setting. The Grand Regency Hospitality Institute, as it was eventually named, welcomed its first cohort of students 6 months after its launch. The curriculum blended hands-on experience with classroom learning, covering everything from the fundamentals of customer service to advanced leadership techniques. Greg took an active role in the program, often teaching classes himself. Hospitality isn't just a job, he told the students during one of his lectures. It's a craft. When you do it right, you're not just meeting expectations, you're creating experiences that people carry with them for a lifetime. The Institute quickly gained a reputation for producing top-tier talent. Graduates went on to secure positions at prestigious hotels worldwide, and many cited Greg's mentorship as a pivotal factor in their success. This ripple effect was precisely what Greg had hoped for. The principles that defined the Grand Regency were spreading far beyond its walls. Amid these developments, Greg also turned his attention to sustainability, recognizing that the future of hospitality required a commitment to environmental stewardship. He partnered with experts in green technology to implement a series of eco-friendly initiatives throughout the hotel. Solar panels were installed on the roof, reducing the property's reliance on traditional energy sources. The kitchens shifted to sourcing ingredients from local farms, emphasizing organic and seasonal produce. Even small details, such as replacing plastic room keys with biodegradable alternatives, were part of the effort. The hotel's sustainability efforts culminated in the creation of an annual Green Regency Summit, which brought together industry leaders to discuss innovative solutions for reducing the environmental impact of hospitality operations. The event drew widespread attention and positioned the Grand Regency as a trailblazer in the field. Greg's commitment to the cause went beyond mere optics. He saw it as a moral imperative. Yet for all his accomplishments, Greg remained grounded. He continued to prioritize relationships, making time to engage with the people who made the Grand Regency what it was. One evening, while walking through the lobby, he stopped to chat with a young porter named Matteo, who had recently joined the team. "How's it going so far, Matteo?" Greg asked, his tone warm. "It's been amazing, Mr. Harrison," Matteo replied. "This place is like no other. It feels like family." Greg smiled, the words resonating deeply. In that moment, he realized that the Grand Regency's true legacy wasn't in its accolades or innovations, but in the sense of belonging it created, a legacy that would endure for generations to come. As the years went by, the Grand Regency began to transcend its original mission of simply offering luxury accommodations. It had evolved into a cultural hub, a place where the intersection of business, philanthropy, and innovation created an atmosphere unlike any other. Greg Harrison had meticulously crafted an environment that emphasized not just the comfort of its guests, but their emotional and intellectual enrichment. This growing influence reached far beyond the hotel's physical boundaries, extending into the community and beyond, as Greg's vision began to inspire a wider movement in hospitality. One of the standout projects Greg embarked upon during this period was the expansion of the hotel's art and cultural programs. Having witnessed the power of shared experiences in fostering connection and empathy, he pushed forward the idea of creating a permanent art gallery inside the Grand Regency. This wasn't going to be just a collection of pieces for aesthetic appeal. It was to be a curated space that told the diverse stories of the people and cultures that had shaped the city. The gallery, named Stories of the City, would feature rotating exhibitions that celebrated the rich tapestry of Minneapolis's history, its artists, and its immigrant communities. Greg collaborated with local curators, historians, and artists to ensure that the exhibits were not only thought-provoking, but also deeply tied to the city's identity. The inaugural exhibit, which explored the contributions of African-American pioneers in the area, was a resounding success, with guests and locals alike coming to appreciate the hotel's commitment to elevating local talent. But the art gallery was just one facet of a broader cultural renaissance taking place at the Grand Regency. Greg had long understood that the true value of a space lies not in the grandeur of its walls, but in the moments it facilitates. With this in mind, he introduced a series of cultural and educational programming that aimed to engage the broader community. Each month, the Grand Regency hosted free public lectures, performances, and creative workshops, ranging from poetry readings to cooking classes, all designed to foster dialogue, creativity, and learning. One of the most successful initiatives was the Cultural Conversation series, which invited thought leaders and activists to lead discussions on topics such as climate change, social justice, and the role of technology in modern society. These events became a staple for those eager to engage with the complexities of today's world, providing a safe, open space for people of all walks of life to come together, exchange ideas, and grow intellectually. The events were so well received that other hotels and businesses in the region began adopting similar models, recognizing the power of hosting such enriching programs. Greg also put a strong emphasis on leadership development in the hotel industry, an extension of his belief that hospitality was more than just a service. To him, it was about leadership, empathy, and creating opportunities for others to succeed. In addition to the Hospitality Training Academy, Greg spearheaded a scholarship program aimed at underprivileged youth, offering them the chance to work at the Grand Regency as part of an internship program while receiving mentorship from senior leaders in the hotel and tourism sectors. The internship program quickly became a point of pride for the hotel, with many of the participants eventually rising through the ranks to take up key positions. One notable success story was that of Juanita, a young woman from a disadvantaged background who entered the program as a housekeeping intern. Juanita's work ethic and passion for service caught the attention of Greg, and within a few years, she was promoted to guest relations manager, overseeing a team that was instrumental in maintaining the hotel's reputation for outstanding service. As the hotel's reputation as an inclusive, forward-thinking institution grew, Greg's influence expanded beyond the hotel walls. Invitations to speak at conferences, sit on industry panels, and lead discussions on hospitality ethics became frequent. Greg, who had once been an unassuming businessman, was now recognized as one of the most influential figures in the industry, a man who had redefined what it meant to be a successful hotelier. Through all this, Greg remained dedicated to the core values that had shaped the Grand Regency from the start: integrity, respect, and a deep understanding of the human condition. He was acutely aware of the responsibility that came with his newfound platform, but rather than becoming overwhelmed by it, he saw it as an opportunity to push for broader societal change. Whether he was meeting with community leaders, brainstorming sustainable practices, or simply walking the halls of the Grand Regency, Greg was always focused on one thing: how to make the world a little better, one thoughtful gesture at a time. The journey from an outsider to an admired leader had been long and full of unexpected twists. But now, looking at the vibrant life of the Grand Regency, Greg felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The hotel had become a living entity, a reflection of the very principles that had guided him throughout his career. The legacy he had hoped to build was no longer just about a successful business or a grand building. It was about the people it had touched, the lives it had changed, and the culture it had fostered. In his heart, Greg knew that the best was yet to come. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on hotel staff kicking out a man for his MAGA hat? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.